The spotlight hit Susan Brooks right as she stepped onto the stage at the Langham Chicago's Grand Ballroom. 300 wealthy guests turned to watch her. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Women dripped in diamonds. Men wore suits that cost more than cars. This was the kind of room where fortunes were made and broken over champagne toasts. Susan had performed in plenty of upscale venues before. Jazz clubs in Harlem, corporate events in Manhattan, private parties in the Hamptons, but this was different. This was $15,000 for 3 songs, the biggest paycheck of her entire career. Her booking agent had called it the opportunity of a lifetime. A wealthy socialite named Jessica Thornton was celebrating her 28th birthday. Her fiancé was sparing no expense. They wanted a rising vocalist to perform during the cocktail hour. Someone with soul, someone with presence, someone who could make the rich people feel something. Susan was that someone. At least, that was what she told herself as she adjusted the microphone and smiled at the crowd. Then her eyes found a face in the crowd, and everything stopped. Park Si-woo stood near the center of the room with his arm wrapped around a woman in a custom Vera Wang gown. The woman wore a diamond tiara. The woman was laughing at something he whispered in her ear. The woman was clearly the birthday girl. And Si-woo was clearly her fiancé. Susan's throat went dry. Her pianist played the intro to At Last by Etta James. The familiar notes floated through the ballroom. She had exactly 4 seconds to decide if she would run or if she would give the performance of her life in front of the man who left her without a single explanation 2 years ago. She chose to sing. Her voice came out strong, steady. She had spent years training herself to perform through pain, through exhaustion, through heartbreak. This was just another performance. Just another room full of strangers who would never know the tornado spinning inside her chest. But Si-woo knew, she could see it in his eyes. The moment he recognized her, his entire body went rigid. His jaw tightened. His hand froze on Jessica's waist. For 1 second, something flashed across his face. Pain, regret, fear. Then his mask returned. Cold, unreadable, dangerous. Jessica noticed him staring at the stage. She leaned into him with a perfect smile. "Isn't she amazing, babe? My event planner found her. Apparently she's blowing up on social media." Si-woo said nothing. His eyes stayed locked on Susan. Susan kept singing. She poured every ounce of emotion into the song. If Park Si-woo wanted to pretend he did not know her, she would make that impossible. Every note was a message. Every lyric was an accusation. She had spent 2 years wondering why he vanished. 2 years trying to move on. 2 years building a life from the ashes he left behind. And now here he was, engaged to someone else, living in a world of champagne and chandeliers while she scraped together rent money in Brooklyn. The song ended. The crowd applauded. Susan bowed gracefully. But before she could announce her next song, a slow clap echoed from the back of the ballroom. Everyone turned. A tall Korean man in a black suit walked through the crowd. Security guards stepped aside for him like they were afraid to breathe in his direction. Si-woo's face went pale. The man stopped right in front of the stage and looked up at Susan with a smile that did not reach his eyes. He was handsome in a sharp, predatory way. His suit was immaculate. His presence commanded the entire room. "Miss Brooks," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "My brother has told me so much about you. I am Park Jae-hoon, and I believe you and I have unfinished business." Susan looked at Si-woo. His fists were clenched. His eyes were screaming at her to run. But it was already too late. If someone from your past suddenly appeared at the worst possible moment, would you stay and face them, or would you run? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button immediately because this story is about to get absolutely insane. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Jae-hoon's smile made Susan feel like a mouse being circled by a hawk. She had never met this man in her entire life. She had never even heard Si-woo mention a brother. But the way Si-woo looked at him told her everything she needed to know. This was not a friendly family reunion. This was a threat walking in expensive shoes. The ballroom fell silent. 300 guests held their breath. Jessica Thornton looked between the two brothers with confusion spreading across her perfect features. "Jae-hoon," Jessica said, "I thought you were in Seoul handling business." "I was." Jae-hoon did not take his eyes off Susan. "But I heard my little brother was throwing the party of the year. How could I miss it?" Si-woo stepped forward, positioning himself between Jae-hoon and the stage. His voice was low but firm. "This is Jessica's night. Whatever you want to discuss, we can do it tomorrow." "Relax, Si-woo. I am just here to enjoy the music." Jae-hoon finally looked at his brother. Something ugly passed between them, years of tension compressed into a single glance. "Unless there is a reason you do not want me talking to your old friend." Jessica's head snapped toward Si-woo. "Old friend, you know the singer." The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Susan watched the muscle in Si-woo's jaw twitch. He was calculating, deciding how much truth to reveal and how many lies to tell. "We met briefly," Si-woo said. "Years ago in New York before I met you." Jae-hoon laughed. The sound was cold. "Briefly, is that what we are calling it now?" Susan's mind raced back to the night everything changed. She remembered sitting across from Si-woo at a private restaurant in Tribeca. They were celebrating her first paid singing gig at a jazz club downtown. He had been different that night. Distracted, checking his phone every few minutes. "What is wrong?" she had asked. He looked at her with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "Susan, if I ever disappear, I need you to promise me something. Do not look for me. Do not ask questions. Just live your life." She laughed, thinking he was being dramatic. "Why would you disappear?" He did not answer. Instead, he kissed her like it was the last time he ever would. 3 weeks later, she woke up in his Manhattan apartment alone. His closet was empty. His phone was disconnected. He left behind only a handwritten note with 5 words. "This is for your protection." She spent months trying to find him. She called every number she had. She visited every location they ever went together. Nothing. Park Si-woo had vanished like he never existed. Now here he was, standing in a Chicago ballroom, engaged to another woman, pretending they barely knew each other. Jessica's expression hardened. She was no fool. She could see when she was not getting the full story. "Si-woo, how exactly do you know this woman?" Before Si-woo could respond, Susan spoke into the microphone. Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. "He was my boyfriend for 8 months. Then he vanished without a trace. But do not worry, Miss Thornton. I did not know he would be here tonight. Someone set this up." The gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Jessica's face went red. "What?" Jae-hoon grinned like he had just won a prize at the carnival. "Now this is entertainment." Si-woo turned to Susan, his voice low and dangerous. "You need to leave, right now." "I am not going anywhere until someone tells me what is going on." Susan stepped to the edge of the stage. Her heart was pounding, but her voice stayed steady. "You vanished. You left me a note saying it was for my protection. Protection from what?" "From this," Si-woo gestured at Jae-hoon. "From my family, from everything I tried to keep you away from." Jae-hoon clapped his hands slowly. "Touching, truly, but here is the problem, little brother. You do not get to decide who enters our world. And Miss Brooks," he paused, his eyes glittering with something dark. "She has been in it longer than she knows." Susan's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Jae-hoon reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded photograph. He handed it up to Susan. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It was a photo of her mother, taken outside a grocery store in Atlanta, dated 3 days ago. Susan's heart stopped. The Park family has been watching your family for years, Miss Brooks. Ji-hoon's voice dropped to a whisper that only she could hear. Your father owed us a debt before he died, a debt that was never paid, and now that debt falls to you. Susan looked at Siwoo. His face was pure anguish. You knew. She whispered. He did not deny it. Everything Susan thought she knew about their relationship crumbled into dust. Susan's father died when she was 16 years old. Heart attack. Sudden, unexpected. Her mother never recovered financially. They lost their home in Atlanta within a year. They moved into a cramped apartment on the wrong side of town. Susan worked 2 jobs through high school just to help pay rent. Not once did anyone mention a debt. Not once did anyone say the name Park. The party had dissolved into chaos around her. Guests whispered behind champagne glasses. Some pulled out their phones to record the drama. Jessica stormed off toward the private suites with 3 of her friends following like a support squad. Siwoo tried to follow her, but Ji-hoon blocked his path. Let her go, Ji-hoon said. You have bigger problems right now. Susan climbed down from the stage. Her legs felt unsteady. Her mind kept replaying the photograph of her mother. The casual clothes she was wearing, the shopping cart she was pushing, the complete ignorance on her face that someone was watching her. If you hurt my mother, Susan said, her voice shaking with rage, I swear to God. No one is hurting anyone. Ji-hoon held up his hands. As long as you cooperate. Siwoo grabbed his brother's arm. This ends now. She has nothing to do with Father's old dealings. Father's old dealings built everything we have, including the money that pays for your precious fiancé's diamonds. Ji-hoon yanked his arm free. You forget who you are, Siwoo. You play the legitimate businessman, the investor, the philanthropist. But our fortune was built on sacrifice, and sacrifices do not expire just because you want them to. Susan stepped between them. Someone needs to explain what is happening, right now, in plain English. Ji-hoon smiled. It was not a kind smile. Your father, Marcus Brooks Sr., was a jazz musician who toured internationally in the 1990s. He spent 2 years performing in Seoul. What you never knew was that your father got involved with the Park family during that time. He borrowed money to fund a record label that failed. He promised to pay it back. He never did. Susan shook her head. My father was a musician. He played clubs and festivals. He did not have business dealings with Korean families. He did not tell you everything. Ji-hoon's voice was cold. When Marcus died, the Parks did not pursue the debt. We waited, we watched, we saw you grow up, we saw your talent develop. He glanced at Siwoo, and we saw your relationship with my brother begin. Susan turned to Siwoo. You knew who I was, this whole time. Siwoo's face was torn. Not at first. I walked into that Manhattan restaurant looking for somewhere quiet to think. I heard you singing during open mic night. I was captivated. It was not until 3 months into our relationship that Ji-hoon told me the truth. And you did not think to mention it. I tried to end things. I tried to protect you. That is why I left. By disappearing, Susan's voice cracked. By leaving me with nothing but a note. Do you have any idea what that did to me? If I stayed, Ji-hoon would have used you to control me. I needed you to hate me. I needed you to forget me. It was the only way to keep you safe. Susan laughed bitterly. Well, congratulations. That plan worked out perfectly. A security guard approached Ji-hoon and whispered something in his ear. Ji-hoon's expression shifted. For the first time since he arrived, he looked concerned. We need to move, Ji-hoon said. Now. What is happening? Siwoo asked. Someone else is here, someone who is not on the guest list. Ji-hoon's voice dropped. The Kwan family just pulled up outside, and they are not here for the champagne. Susan did not know what that meant, but the way both brothers tensed up told her it was very, very bad. The ballroom doors burst open. 12 men in dark suits poured in. Guests screamed. Tables overturned. In the middle of the chaos, a woman walked through the crowd with terrifying calm. She was Korean, mid-40s, dressed in a blood-red gown that flowed behind her like liquid fire. She stopped in front of Jae-hoon and smiled. "Hello, boys. Did you really think you could have a party in my city without inviting me?" Jae-hoon's face went white. "Mrs. Kwan." The woman looked at Susan. Her smile widened. "And you must be the singer everyone is talking about, the one who has the Park brothers fighting like children." Susan could not move, could not speak. Mrs. Kwan stepped closer. Her perfume smelled like jasmine and something darker. "I have a proposition for you, Miss Brooks, one that could erase your father's debt forever. All you have to do is betray the man you love." Mrs. Kwan was the kind of woman who did not ask for attention. She simply took it. Every eye in the ballroom was fixed on her. Even the security guards seemed frozen, unsure whose orders they should follow. Susan found her voice. "I do not know who you are or what you want, but I am not betraying anyone." "Such loyalty," Mrs. Kwan tilted her head. "And yet the man you are defending kept secrets from you for years. He watched you struggle while he lived in penthouses. He got engaged to another woman while you sang in Brooklyn bars. Tell me, what exactly has he done to earn this loyalty?" Susan had no answer. She had been asking herself the same question since the moment she saw Siwoo across the ballroom. Siwoo stepped forward. "Mrs. Kwan, whatever business you have with the Park family, leave her out of it. Susan is not part of this world." "But she is." Mrs. Kwan's voice hardened. "Your family borrowed from my family to fund your expansion into America. When my husband died, your father decided those debts no longer mattered. He was wrong, and now I am here to collect." Jae-hoon spread his hands. "We can discuss repayment, set up a meeting, handle this like professionals." "I am tired of meetings." Mrs. Kwan snapped her fingers. One of her guards brought forward a leather briefcase. She opened it to reveal stacks of documents. "I want a transaction, and Miss Brooks is going to help me complete it." Susan felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. "What kind of transaction?" Mrs. Kwan explained in clinical terms. The Park family had been moving money through a network of art galleries across the United States. San Francisco, Miami, Chicago, Newport Beach. The evidence of their activities was stored in an encrypted database that only Siwoo could access. If Susan could get close enough to Siwoo to obtain his access codes, Mrs. Kwan would forgive her father's debt entirely. She would also pay Susan $2 million. "Why would I help you destroy him?" Susan asked. "Because he already destroyed you once, and he will do it again." Mrs. Kwan's voice was almost sympathetic. "Men like Siwoo do not change. They use, they discard. You were a pawn then, you are a pawn now. The only question is whether you want to be a rich pawn or a broke one." Susan looked at Siwoo. He met her eyes with an expression she could not read. Was it guilt? Pleading? Manipulation? She had spent 8 months learning every curve of his face, and now he felt like a stranger. "How do I know you will keep your word?" Susan asked. Mrs. Kwan smiled. "You do not, but you know what happens if you refuse." Susan's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, a text from an unknown number. She opened it. A photograph of her mother appeared on the screen. Same grocery store, same shopping cart. But this time, a man stood behind her mother, close enough to touch her. The message below the photo was simple: 48 hours to decide. Susan's hands shook. "You are threatening my mother." "I am offering you a choice." Mrs. Kwan's voice was ice. "Help me willingly or watch everyone you love suffer. The decision is yours." Susan took a deep breath. She could feel Siwoo watching her, Jae-hoon watching her, 300 guests watching her. She opened her mouth to answer. But before she could speak, the ballroom lights went out. Complete darkness. Screams echoed off the walls. Glass shattered somewhere nearby. When the emergency lights flickered on, Mrs. Kwan was on the ground, unconscious, a dart sticking out of her neck. And standing in the center of the chaos was a man Susan recognized from somewhere deep in her memory. She could not place him at first. Then it hit her. He looked like an older version of her father. Same jawline, same deep-set eyes, same crooked smile. He was holding a gun, and he was aiming it directly at Susan. "Time to go, Miss Brooks," he said. "Your real family has been waiting." The man with the gun looked nothing like Susan's father at first glance. His hair was gray. His face was weathered by years of something hard. But when he smiled, she saw something familiar. The curve of his lips. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners. It was like looking at a ghost wearing a stranger's face. Siwoo moved fast. He grabbed a champagne bottle and hurled it at the gunman. The man dodged, but it created enough distraction for Jae-hoon's security team to spring into action. "Get her out of here," Siwoo shouted. Hands grabbed Susan's arms. She was being dragged toward a service exit. She fought against them. "Who is that man? He said something about my family." Jae-hoon appeared beside her. For once, his smug expression was gone. "That man is Raymond Brooks, your uncle, the one your mother told you died in a car accident when you were 5. Susan stopped struggling. "That is impossible. My mother showed me the funeral photos." "Your family has more secrets than ours, Miss Brooks." Jae-hoon pushed her through the service door. "Your father did not just borrow money. He stole from the Kwan family. When they came to collect, he faked his death, moved your mother to Atlanta, changed your identities. He spent years hiding you from people exactly like Mrs. Kwan." "My father died of a heart attack. I was at the hospital." "He had a heart attack because Raymond found him. The stress of being discovered killed him before Raymond could." They burst through the service exit into a loading dock. A black SUV was waiting with its engine running. Jae-hoon pushed Susan inside. Siwoo slid in after her. 2 guards took the front seats. "Go," Jae-hoon slammed the door. "I will handle things here." The SUV peeled out of the loading dock into the Chicago night. Susan's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her mind raced through everything she thought she knew about her family. "My uncle is alive," she said. "My father faked his death. This cannot be real." Siwoo grabbed her shoulders. His grip was firm but gentle. "Susan, look at me. I know this is overwhelming, but right now we need to focus on surviving. Raymond has spent years hunting your family. He blames your father for ruining his life. He blames you for existing. He will not stop until he gets what he wants." "What does he want?" "Your father stole something valuable before he disappeared. Raymond believes you know where it is hidden." "I do not know anything about any of this." "Raymond does not care. You are the only living heir to your father's secrets. That makes you the target." The SUV pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a luxury high-rise in the Gold Coast neighborhood. Siwoo led Susan to a private elevator. They ascended 40 floors in silence. His penthouse was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan. The city sparkled below like a field of electric diamonds. Modern furniture filled the space. Art hung on the walls that probably cost more than Susan would earn in a decade. But Susan did not care about the view. She needed answers. "Tell me everything," she said. "From the beginning, no more lies." Siwoo poured himself a drink. His hands were shaking slightly. "Your father and Raymond were partners. They ran an operation in the 90s. Antiquities, art, high-value items that moved between Seoul and New York. The Kwan family was their main client. My father was a thief. He was a survivor. He did what he had to do, but then he got greedy. He skimmed money from a major transaction. When the Kwans found out, they wanted blood. Your father framed Raymond to take the fall. Raymond went to prison in South Korea for 8 years. When he got out, your father was already gone, but Raymond's hatred never faded. It just transferred to the next generation. Susan sank onto the couch. Her entire identity felt like a lie. The loving father she remembered, the struggling musician, the man who taught her to sing and told her bedtime stories. He was a thief, a fraud, a man who destroyed his own brother. "Why did you get involved with me?" Susan whispered. "If you knew all of this, why did you pursue me?" Siwoo knelt in front of her. "Because I fell in love with you before I knew who you were, and when I found out I was already in too deep, I tried to walk away. I tried to protect you by disappearing, but I never stopped watching. I never stopped caring." "You were engaged to someone else." "Jessica was an arrangement, business. Our families have investments together. I never loved her." Susan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered on instinct. Raymond's voice crackled through the speaker. "Hello, niece. I hope my brother's old boyfriend is treating you well. Enjoy your night. Because tomorrow I am going to take everything he cares about, starting with you." The line went dead. Susan looked at Siwoo. For the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. Morning light filled the penthouse. Susan had not slept. She spent the entire night staring at the ceiling, replaying every memory of her father. The bedtime stories, the birthday songs, the way he called her his little songbird. All of it felt tainted now, like discovering your favorite photograph was actually staged by strangers. Siwoo entered the living room with coffee. He looked like he had not slept either. Dark circles under his eyes, tension in his shoulders. "My people have been tracking Raymond's movements," he said. "He has a compound outside Scottsdale, Arizona, high security, private airstrip. He has been planning this for years." "Planning what exactly?" "To dismantle everyone connected to your father's betrayal. The parks were on that list because we knew about the operation and did nothing to stop it. Your mother is on that list because she helped your father disappear. And you are on that list because you represent everything your father built after he escaped." Susan processed this. "My mother, is she safe?" "I have a team in Atlanta watching her. But Raymond is smart. He knows we would protect her, which means he is going to hit us where we are not looking." The elevator doors opened. Jessica Thornton stepped out. She was flanked by 2 lawyers in matching gray suits. Her expression was pure ice. "I want answers," Jessica said. "Real ones, not the garbage you fed me at my party." Siwoo sighed. "Jessica, this is not a good time." "I do not care what kind of time it is. I am your fiancé. Or at least I was until your ex-girlfriend showed up and your brother announced some kind of family crisis." She threw a folder on the table. "My attorneys found something interesting. 3 years ago, your family acquired a shipping company in Long Beach. That company has been moving unauthorized cargo through ports in San Diego and Newport Beach. Federal investigators are asking questions." Siwoo's face darkened. "Where did you get that information?" "I have my sources. The question is why my name is on those acquisition documents when I never signed anything." Susan watched the exchange. She realized something important. Jessica was not just an angry fiancée. She was a woman who had been used as a shield. Her family name, her Boston aristocracy, all of it was leveraged to make the Park family look legitimate. "He used you too," Susan said quietly. Jessica turned to her. For a moment, the hostility faded. They were 2 women who had both been pawns in a game they did not choose to play. "It appears so," Jessica admitted. Siwoo ran his hands through his hair. "I did not sign you up for any of this. Jae-hoon handles the shipping company. I handle real estate and technology investments. We keep our operations separate." "But your money flows through the same channels," Jessica said. "And now I am implicated in whatever mess you created." Susan stood up. We are wasting time pointing fingers. Raymond is out there planning something. We need to stop him before he hurts anyone else. Jessica raised an eyebrow. And why should I help you? Because if this all falls apart, your name goes down with theirs. Your family's hospitals, your charity work, all of it gets dragged through the mud. We are in this together whether we like it or not. Jessica stared at Susan for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Fine, what is the plan? Siwoo's phone rang. He answered. His face went white. What? Susan asked. He put the phone on speaker. Jaehoon's voice came through, strained and panicked. Raymond's men hit the Chicago gallery 20 minutes ago. They took everything, all the records, all the financial documents. A pause. And they took someone else too. Who? Siwoo demanded. The line crackled. Then Jaehoon's voice broke. Susan's mother. She was visiting the gallery. She was supposed to be in Atlanta, but she flew in this morning to find Susan. Raymond has her, and he is demanding a trade. Susan's world stopped. Her mother, the only family she had left, in the hands of a man who had spent years plotting revenge. What does he want? Susan whispered. Jaehoon answered, You. He wants you delivered to his compound within 48 hours. Or he says he will send your mother back piece by piece. 48 hours. That was all the time Susan had to save her mother's life. 48 hours to figure out how to walk into a trap and somehow walk back out alive. She had sung in dive bars where fights broke out mid-song. She had performed at weddings where the bride cried through every number. She had survived poverty and heartbreak and abandonment. But this was different. This was war. Siwoo immediately started making calls. He reached out to contacts in Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Sedona. He pulled in favors from people Susan had never heard of, private security firms, former military contractors, people who dealt in problems that never made the news. We are not sending you in there alone, Siwoo said. Raymond wants a trade, but he has no intention of letting either of you leave alive. Then what do? We give him what he wants, but we control the exchange. We pick the location. We set the terms, and we have our people in position before he knows what hit him. Jessica had been on her phone for the past hour coordinating resources. She finally looked up. My family has connections in Arizona, old money, political donors. My cousin runs a private aviation company out of Sedona. He owes me a favor. We can fly in undetected and land on a strip Raymond does not control. Susan was surprised by the help. Why are you doing this for me? Jessica's expression softened slightly. Because Raymond's people forged my signature on those documents. If he succeeds in destroying the Park family, I become collateral damage. This is not about loyalty to you. It is about survival. They spent the next 12 hours coordinating. Jaehoon flew in from Chicago with additional security personnel. Siwoo mapped out Raymond's compound using satellite imagery. Jessica arranged transportation and medical backup. Susan felt useless. She was not a fighter. She was not a strategist. She was a singer who got caught in a nightmare she did not create. Siwoo noticed her frustration. He pulled her aside into a quiet corner of the penthouse. You are the most important piece of this, he said. Raymond wants you. He is obsessed with making you pay for your father's sins. That obsession is his weakness. He will be so focused on having you in his grasp that he will not see the trap closing around him. So I am bait. You are leverage, just like you were always meant to be. Except this time you get to choose how the story ends. That night, Susan sat on the penthouse balcony overlooking Lake Michigan. The city sparkled below. Millions of lives moving forward. Millions of stories unfolding. Somewhere out there, her mother was terrified, alone, wondering if her daughter would come for her. Siwoo joined her on the balcony. They sat in silence for a long time. I never stopped loving you, he finally said. Every day for the past 2 years, I thought about calling. I thought about explaining. But I convinced myself that staying away was the only way to keep you safe. And look how that turned out, Susan said bitterly. I was wrong. I see that now. I thought I could control everything, manage every outcome. But some things cannot be controlled. Some people cannot be protected by distance. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. Susan turned to face him. If we survive this, what happens? Whatever you want to happen, I am done making decisions for you. This is your life, your choice. Susan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. It was a video, her mother tied to a chair, a man's voice counting down in the background. 40 hours left, Susan. I hope you are on your way. Your mother has been telling me stories about you. How you always dreamed of being a star. How you never gave up no matter how hard life got. It would be such a tragedy if that beautiful voice was silenced before you reached your full potential. The video ended with a close-up of her mother's terrified face. Susan gripped the phone so hard her knuckles turned white. She looked at Siwoo. We leave tonight, she said. No more waiting. The Arizona desert stretched endlessly in every direction. Red rock formations rose from the sand like ancient monuments. The sky blazed orange and pink as the sun set behind the mountains. Under different circumstances, Susan might have found it beautiful. Tonight, it felt like the entrance to a grave. Their team landed on a private airstrip 15 miles from Raymond's compound. Jessica's cousin came through with 2 helicopters, a team of 12 trained operatives, medical supplies, and communications equipment. Siwoo briefed everyone on the plan. Susan would approach the compound alone and make initial contact. Raymond would be so focused on her arrival that he would not notice the team moving into position. Once Susan confirmed her mother's location, the team would extract both women while Jaehoon's people created a diversion at the main gate. What if something goes wrong? Susan asked. Then we improvise. Siwoo handed her an earpiece. I will be with you the whole time, every step. You will never be alone. Susan walked the final mile to the compound alone. The desert air turned cold as the sun disappeared. Her footsteps crunched on gravel. Her heart pounded so loud she could hear it echoing in her ears. The compound gates opened as she approached. Raymond was waiting. He looked older than she expected. Gray streaks in his hair, deep lines around his eyes, but there was something manic about his expression, something broken and rebuilt wrong. Finally, Raymond said, the last piece of the puzzle. Where is my mother? She is comfortable for now. He gestured for her to follow. Come, we have much to discuss. The main building was surprisingly modern. Sleek furniture, expensive art, climate-controlled and immaculately clean. Nothing like the criminal hideout Susan had imagined. Raymond led her to a sitting room. Her mother was there, tied to a chair but physically unharmed. When she saw Susan, she started crying. Baby, you should not have come. You should have run. I could never leave you, Mom. Raymond laughed. Touching. Your father said the same thing before he framed me, before he took everything and disappeared. He said he was protecting you both, but all he was doing was saving himself. Susan faced her uncle. My father made mistakes, but he loved us. Love, Raymond's face twisted with decades of rage. He let me rot in a foreign prison for 8 years. He destroyed my reputation, my marriage. My children refused to speak to me. Everything I had gone because of his love. Raymond pulled out a file and threw documents across the table. Photographs, bank records, wire transfers. A paper trail that proved her father had systematically erased his own brother from existence. Your father did not just steal from the Kwans, Raymond said. He stole from me. We built that operation together, equal partners. But when things got dangerous, he made a choice, me or him. and he chose himself every single time. Susan looked at the evidence. It was overwhelming, undeniable. "I did not know," she whispered. "Of course you did not. You were a child. And then you were a struggling adult chasing a dream while your mother pretended everything was fine. But ignorance does not erase what is owed, and your father's debt passes to you." Raymond pulled out a gun. "The Park family will fall eventually, but you will be the message, the daughter who paid for her father's sins." Susan's earpiece crackled. Siwoo's voice, "Team is in position, keep him talking." She looked at Raymond. "If you kill me, you get nothing. The Kwans still want their money. The Parks still have their resources. All you accomplish is adding another body to the count." "I do not care about money anymore. I care about justice." Justice or revenge, because they are not the same thing. Raymond hesitated, just for a second, but that second was enough. The lights went out. Gunfire erupted outside. The sound of helicopters filled the air. Raymond grabbed Susan's arm and dragged her toward a back exit. "If I cannot have justice, I will take you with me." They burst through a door into an underground tunnel. Raymond pushed Susan forward at gunpoint. Behind them, shouting and footsteps echoed. The chaos of the rescue operation was underway, but in this tunnel, it was just Susan and the uncle who wanted her dead. Raymond was leading her toward a vehicle hidden somewhere in the desert. If he got her into that car, no one would find her. She would disappear just like her father made Raymond disappear all those years ago. Susan made her decision. She was done being a pawn. She spun around and slammed her elbow into Raymond's face with every ounce of strength she had. The gun fired. The bullet grazed her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body like lightning. But she did not stop. She kicked his knee. She scratched his face. She fought like her life depended on it, because it did. Raymond staggered backward, clutching his broken nose. Blood poured down his face. For a moment, they were both frozen. Two people connected by blood and betrayal, standing in a dark tunnel with everything on the line. Susan ran. The tunnel stretched ahead, lit only by emergency lights every 50 feet. She had no idea where it led. She just knew she had to keep moving. Her shoulders screamed with every step. Blood soaked through her shirt. Behind her, Raymond was screaming, "You cannot escape. There is nowhere to go." She rounded a corner and nearly collided with Jae-hoon. He grabbed her shoulders to steady her. "Your mother is safe. Siwoo's team extracted her 3 minutes ago. She is on a helicopter heading to Phoenix." "Raymond is behind me. He is." "I know." Jae-hoon pulled out a weapon. "Get to the exit. There is a vehicle waiting 200 meters north. Go now." Susan ran. She burst out of the tunnel into the cold desert night. Stars blazed overhead. The sound of helicopters was distant now but growing closer. The vehicle Jae-hoon mentioned was there, a black SUV with the engine running. Susan yanked open the door and threw herself inside. Siwoo was behind the wheel. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. Then he saw the blood. "Susan, are you?" His expression shifted to horror. "We need to get you to a hospital." "Just drive, please, just get me out of here." They sped through the desert toward Scottsdale. Susan leaned against the seat, pressing her hand against her wound. The adrenaline was fatting. The pain was becoming unbearable. "Your mother is safe," Siwoo said. "Jessica is with her. They are flying to a private medical facility in Paradise Valley, best doctors in the state." "And Raymond." Siwoo's jaw tightened. "Jae-hoon has him contained. He will not hurt anyone else." Susan closed her eyes. The nightmare was over. Her mother was alive. Raymond was stopped. She survived. But she did not feel relief. Not yet. She just felt empty. Hours later, Susan woke up in a hospital bed. Her shoulder was bandaged professionally. An IV dripped into her arm. The room was private and expensive-looking. Her mother was sitting beside her, holding her hand. When she saw Susan's eyes open, she started crying again. "Baby, thank God you are okay." Susan squeezed her mother's hand. "I am so sorry. I did not know about any of this. Dad's secrets, Raymond, everything." "You were never supposed to know." Her mother's voice cracked with years of hidden pain. "Your father wanted to protect you. He made terrible choices, but he loved you more than anything in this world. He destroyed his own brother." "I know, and he spent every day after regretting it, but he could not undo what was done. All he could do was try to give you a better life." Siwoo entered the room. He looked exhausted but relieved. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got shot, because I did." He almost smiled. "Fair enough." Susan's mother stood up. "I will give you two some privacy." She kissed Susan's forehead and left the room. Siwoo sat on the edge of the bed. "Raymond is in federal custody. Jae-hoon turned him over to authorities. The evidence of his operations was enough for serious charges. He will be locked away for a very long time." "And the parks, your family business." Siwoo sighed heavily. "Jae-hoon and I had a long conversation. We are transitioning everything to legitimate operations. It will take years, but we are done with the old ways, completely done." Susan reached for his hand. "What about us? Where do we go from here?" Before he could answer, the door opened. Jessica walked in. She looked tired but composed. "We found something else," Jessica said. "The booking agent who hired you for my party, the one who made sure you would be there that night." She held up a document. "Her name is Marlene Chen. She has connections to both the Kwan family and Raymond. She set this entire thing up from the beginning." Susan's blood ran cold. Someone had orchestrated everything. The party, the reunion, the chaos that followed. And they still had not been caught. 3 weeks passed. Susan's shoulder healed completely. Her mother returned to Atlanta with a private security detail and enough money to start fresh anywhere she wanted. The nightmares were fading slowly. The questions were finally answered. Marlene Chen was arrested in Los Angeles 2 weeks after the Arizona rescue. Federal agents traced her communications back to both Raymond and associates of Mrs. Kwan. She had spent years positioning herself in the entertainment industry, waiting for the right moment to bring together all the pieces of a decades-old revenge plot. She confessed everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her father had been one of Raymond's prison contacts in Seoul. When Raymond was released, he reached out to Marlene for help tracking the Brooks family. She discovered Susan's rising music career. She learned about the Park brothers. She made sure the birthday party booking landed on Susan's desk. Everything that happened at the Langham, Chicago, was by design. Susan was never just a singer who stumbled into a nightmare. She was the final piece of a puzzle that had been building for 20 years. Now Susan stood in her Brooklyn apartment, looking out the window at the city she had fought so hard to conquer. Her phone kept buzzing with messages from her manager. Apparently, the viral attention from that crazy Chicago incident had turned into serious interest from major record labels. Siwoo had been calling every day, sometimes twice. He was still in Chicago, untangling the complicated web his family had created over decades. He kept promising to visit. She kept telling him to take his time. But tonight, she did not have to wait anymore, because tonight he was finally in New York. The buzzer rang. Susan pressed the button to let him up. When Siwoo walked through her door, he looked different. The tension that always seemed to live in his shoulders was gone. He smiled easily. He carried flowers and a small shopping bag. "I brought Thai food," he said. "From that place you used to love on the Upper West Side." Susan laughed. "You remembered." "I remember everything about us." They ate dinner at her tiny kitchen table. They talked about everything and nothing, the future, the past, the strange journey that brought them back together. "I got an offer from a label," Susan said. "A real one. They want to sign me for 3 albums." "That is incredible. You deserve it." "It would mean a lot of traveling, recording sessions, touring eventually." Siwoo nodded. "I would expect nothing less. You have been chasing this dream your whole life." "What about us? Can this work with everything else going on?" He reached across the table and took her hand. "I spent 2 years running from you because I thought I was protecting you. I was wrong. I do not want to run anymore. I want to build something real, something honest, if you will have me." Susan looked into his eyes. She saw the man who left her, the man who came back, the man who fought beside her when everything fell apart. "No more secrets," she said. "Ever. No more secrets. And I am keeping my career. I did not survive all of this just to become someone's quiet girlfriend in a penthouse." He smiled. "I would never expect you to be quiet about anything." 6 months later, Susan stood backstage at Madison Square Garden. Her first headline concert. 20,000 seats sold out in 48 hours. The crowd was chanting her name so loud the walls vibrated. Her mother was in the front row, crying happy tears. Jaehoon and Jessica sat together, surprisingly civil. They had started a legitimate art authentication business together. Boring work, legal work. A fresh start for both of them. And Siwoo waited in the wings, watching her with pure pride. Susan took a deep breath. She thought about her father, the man who made terrible choices but loved her anyway. She thought about Raymond, the broken man who let revenge consume his entire existence. She thought about every struggle, every setback, every moment she wanted to give up on her dreams. She did not give up. She rose. The stage manager gave her the signal. Susan stepped into the spotlight. 20,000 people screamed her name. And Susan Brooks started to sing. The music flowed through her like electricity. Every note was a triumph. Every lyric was a declaration. She was no longer the struggling singer from Brooklyn. She was no longer the pawn in someone else's game. She was exactly who she always dreamed of becoming. Later that night, after the encores and the standing ovations and the champagne backstage, Siwoo pulled Susan aside. "I have something for you." He handed her a small velvet box. Susan's heart stopped. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught every light in the room. "I told you I wanted to build something real," Siwoo said. "I meant it. Susan Brooks, will you marry me?" She kissed him before he could finish the question. When they finally pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. "Yes." The crowd was gone. The stadium was empty. But in that moment, Susan felt like she was still standing in a spotlight, not because anyone was watching, but because she finally understood something important. She was never a pawn. She was never leverage. She was never just the daughter of a man who made mistakes. She was always the queen. She just needed to fight long enough to claim her throne. The Park family found redemption. The debts were settled. The secrets were exposed. And love, as messy and complicated as it was, won in the end. Because some stories are about revenge. Some stories are about survival. But the best stories are about choosing who you want to become when the world gives you every reason to give up. Susan chose herself. She chose love. She chose to sing. And the world was finally ready to listen.